great Avadhuta Mohanji has said, liberation is a lifestyle. What does this mean? It means that it's not enough to have spirituality as a side project. Whatever we call our spirituality, it has to be something that is infused deeply into absolutely everything that we do. It's not enough just to have these little few hours set aside in the day for spirituality, or few weeks or months set aside in a year for spirituality. When we go here and there, we go on whatever pilgrimage, or we go to visit this guru or that guru, or we go on retreat or whatever. This is not enough, because when we talk about liberation, when we talk about enlightenment, what are we aiming for? We're aiming for some kind of permanently established state of being. So, in order to reach this permanently established way of being, where we're not just liberated for half an hour in the morning, or for a few weeks when we have time off work or holiday or whatever, in order to reach this state, our, whatever we call it, our practice, our process, our effort, it must be permanent. It must be 24 hours. It must be all the time. It must be unceasing. If we want to just be enlightened some of the time, then maybe it's enough. Maybe it's enough to just meditate for a few minutes every day or whatever. Right? Then we can have that. But to do that, to have this spirituality segregated, set aside from the rest of our life, and somehow expect the rest of our life to somehow transform, to miraculously out of the blue transform after a few weeks, months, years or whatever, is utterly delusional and utterly foolish. Spirituality must be a full-time affair for us, otherwise nothing will happen. But how can it be full-time? We might ask, well, how can it be full-time? If we think that our spirituality is just when we're doing this meditation, when we're doing that practice, when we're reading that book, when we're listening to this person speak, if that's how we conceive of our spirituality, then we won't be able to make it all the time. Because still, we've got to eat, we've got to drink, we've got to work, we've got to talk to people, we've got to interact with people, we've got to do all of this kind of mundane stuff. So how do we spiritualize those things? Well, what is spirituality? What is this spiritual thing? That is our essence. That's just the essence of our being. So the essence of our being, the spirit, the soul, the source, the supreme consciousness, whatever you want to call it, that's there all the time. Even, for instance, when we are in deep sleep and we feel that we are not there, that we're somehow blanked out, the source is there then as well. So the source is just as much present in every moment. So the spirituality of every moment is basically making sure that we feel that source, that we begin to feel ourselves beyond merely our personality and our body. And this is not just a practice of, when we're doing things, trying to feel into some abstract, silent part of our being. It's also about learning how the source flows, how the source moves, how the source expresses ourselves. And for me, the key thing for this, when we talk about movement, not the path of sitting and meditating, the path of movement, the path of living liberation. The key to this is being true to ourselves, being natural. Because the expression of the source, the movement of the source, the flow of the source is not some kind of abstract mystical thing where, okay, we're established in the source and we'll start wandering around with our chin up, in some kind of mystical state or whatever, thinking we're better than everybody else or higher than everybody else. No, if we're established in that, we'll be completely and absolutely natural. We'll never have to think before we speak. And we'll never have to think after we speak. We will speak, act, and do in such a way that leaves no trace behind. Because the source of what we're doing is so true to ourselves that we can never look back and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Right? So this is the path of living liberation. Okay, we can have a practice, we can have whatever, self-inquiry, we can read words of masters, we can sit in presence of masters, whatever. But the real key to this path of learning how liberation lives is feeling into all our activities during the day, all our interactions, and seeing, where am I contracted? Where am I in a knot? Where do I feel uncomfortable? Where do I feel kind of shrunk down and boxed in? When do I feel limited and not expansive? So we need to notice all of these things. Because it's no use being liberated for half an hour in the morning, maybe we've got some meditation, some method or whatever, and when we do that we feel blissful. But then we go out into the world, we go to work, we talk to people, and again we start catching these vibes of suffering everywhere. We start getting contracted everywhere. We can't sort that out sitting in meditation, even very early in the morning. We can't sort that out. We have to learn, why am I feeling like this? Why am I getting contracted in these moments? We have to see what the source of these things is. And then we have to begin relaxing out of those things. We have to see, is it possible for me to act different here? Is it possible for me to be more true to myself? And to do this, it will take courage. Because this path of not being ourselves, this path of being false, is all based on fear. It's all based on insecurity. It's fear that takes us in the opposite direction to liberation. Therefore, it's courage, it's bravery, it's the courage to truly be ourselves unconditionally. No matter what anybody else says, no matter how the world reacts to us, the courage to be fully ourselves and to fully flow as ourselves, that's the current that actually takes us to real, permanent liberation. Takes us to liberation as a lived condition. Right, so key point here, how to make liberation a 24-hour path, how to make liberation a lifestyle. Be aware of yourself at all times. Be aware of the contractions and micro contractions in your being in different situations, different scenarios. Find an anchor within you. Find your deepest place of peace, contentment, fearlessness. And then when you go out in the world, when you live your life, see what moves that space, see what shakes that space. And then you know, right, I've got something to work on here. Next time the situation comes up, let me be more aware. Let me be more brave. Let me observe myself deeper. And if we're like this all the time, if we've got this eye on ourselves all the time, and if, like I said in my video on dispassion, if we've already started to feel exhausted with our ordinary mode of living, then something will be keeping us awake. Something won't be allowing us to go into this ignorant sleep, this ignorant, heavy, dense slumber. Something will be keeping us awake, and that will be what allows us to live like this, to be aware at all times. Because we're fed up. We're fed up of living a lifestyle of stagnation, fear, falsity, insecurity. And that state of being fed up, that keeps us awake. That's what makes this path happen. That's what makes this path move. But it has to be all the time. It has to be 100%. It has to be 24/7, 365 days a year for years on end. Liberation is not going to happen in a weekend or a month or a year. What's been built in time, karmic structure, takes time to dissolve. Even though our source, even though our reality, our soul is beyond time, beyond space, we are walking this path apparently through space and time. And these aspects, these karmic aspects that we have, take time to dissolve, to diminish, to dilute. But it can be done. If we want this more than anything, then it can be done. And when I say we want this more than anything, this path to liberation is not really a desire. It's more just what happens when all the other desires, all the other fears, whatever, start to seem less interesting to us. Then this path naturally happens. The source starts to pull us back to itself. So that's it. This is another aspect of the natural path of making liberation a lifestyle.